Okay, so are you ready to like dive into some seriously deep stuff?
Always.
Today we are tackling Shiva
Oh, wow.
in Hindu mythology.
One of the big ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big one.
Hugely important figure.
And we've got these excerpts from this text that's basically like describing him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating because he is not your typical god.
Right.
So we're going to try to understand why Shiva is such a powerful figure even today,
What
why it
next?
lasted.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
go for it.
not average, that's for sure. I mean, like the way he's introduced as like the destroyer, right?
Yeah.
Part of like the big three, Brahma, the creator, a Vishnu, the preserver, and then you've got Shiva, the destroyer.
That's not usually what you think about when you think about a god,
I
right?
know, it's so interesting. Like,
Yeah.
how can a destroyer also be a god?
It seems like a contradiction.
Right.
You think God, you think like benevolent creator, right?
I think that's what's so cool about understanding Shiva, though. You know, in Hinduism, destruction isn't always a bad thing.
Interesting.
It's part of this whole cycle
Okay,
of creation, preservation, and then dissolution.
I see.
So it's like a seed. It
Yeah.
has to like shed its outer shell, to sprout and grow.
So it's more like transformation.
Yes,
It's a necessary step for renewal.
exactly. And Shiva,
Yeah.
he like embodies that whole principle,
Yeah.
destroys to allow for new beginnings.
Right.
And that constant like evolution of the universe.
That's pretty powerful.
And then like, how does that apply to us,
Oh, I like that.
in our own lives?
Yeah, like letting go of old habits,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Or beliefs to grow.
To grow, yeah.
Sometimes you need a little destruction.
Right.
Right? To progress.
Whether it's like literal or metaphorical.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this other,
I mean, that I can relate to.
yeah, for sure.
But
Oh, yeah.
the text also describes Shiva as both terrible and kind.
Right.
So it's like he's got these multitudes.
He does. Like that duality is at the heart of like who Shiva is.
Okay.
He's the ultimate ascetic yogi, like deep in meditation on Mount Kailasa,
Okay.
but he's also a devoted husband to Parvati,
Right.
father to Kartikeya and Ganesha.
Yeah, so it's like he's got all these different sides.
He does. He's a fierce warrior,
Yeah.
destroying demons, but also like a source of immense compassion.
Right. And so that makes me think is like the ancient Greek god Janus,
Mm-hmm.
who had two faces
Right.
representing like beginnings and endings. Is there something similar going on here?
That's such a good connection.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a framework in Hinduism called the gunas,
Okay.
sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Okay.
And these represent different qualities or
Yes.
energies
Yeah.
that exist in like all beings.
Interesting.
And Shiva embodies all three of them.
No.
So like his serene meditation that represents sattva, his passionate dance as Nataraja embodies rajas,
Correct.
and then his like sometimes fearsome, acts of destruction that reflects tamas.
So it's not just like one definition.
Right.
He's the whole spectrum.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, and this idea of the gunas,
Yeah.
it's not just some like philosophical concept. They like actually play out
Got it.
in Shiva's stories and interactions, with other gods.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, because like how does this show up?
Yes.
In stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Like take, for instance, the story of how the sacred river Ganga like descended to earth.
Mhm.
It was Shiva who like tamed her powerful flow with his hair,
Wow.
saving the world from destruction.
Wow.
So there you see like his sattvic nature, his
Yeah.
ability to bring balance and harmony.
Yeah.
But then you have stories of his like fierce battles with demons,
Right.
where his rajasic energy is on full display.
Okay.
And then even his like destructive acts,
Right.
like when he opened his third eye and incinerated Kama,
Mhm.
the god of desire,
Yeah.
that was ultimately like an act of restoring cosmic order, a manifestation of tamas, driven by a higher purpose.
So it's like each story is like
Right.
revealing another side of him.
Yeah, like different facets of his personality.
But speaking of let's talk about his iconography.
Okay,
I mean, visually, it's amazing.
it is.
The crescent moon,
Yes.
the Ganga flowing from his hair,
Mm-hmm.
the serpent Vasuki, the
Yeah.
trident, the Damaru drum,
Right.
that third eye.
Yes.
I mean, there's so much there.
There is.
Yeah, so what does it all mean?
Well, each of those symbols, it's like another layer,
Yeah.
to understanding Shiva.
It's like you're learning a language.
Right.
Instead of words, it's symbols.
Right. Like the crescent moon,
Mm-hmm.
for example, symbolizes his mastery over time.
Okay.
The Ganga represents purity
Mm,
and like cleansing of negativity.
got it.
The serpent,
Yeah.
often seen coiled around his neck,
Right.
signifies the control of like primal energy.
The third eye. I'm very curious about that.
Ah, yes, the third eye. So this represents Shiva's ability to see beyond
Yeah.
the illusion of like the material world,
It's interesting.
to perceive the ultimate truth.
Okay.
It's also associated with his destructive power,
Okay.
the power to annihilate ignorance and illusion.
Right.
But remember, even this destruction,
Yeah.
it's ultimately an act of creation.
Interesting.
It's a way of like clearing the path, you know,
I see.
for true knowledge and enlightenment.
So the third eye, while powerful, isn't just about brute force.
Right.
It's about like really seeing things as they are.
Exactly. And then you have the lingam,
Okay.
which is a more abstract symbol
Mm-hmm.
representing Shiva.
Yeah.
It's a powerful representation of creation
Right.
and the potential for generation.
Okay, but all these symbols and stories,
Yeah.
they aren't just confined to one interpretation, are they?
No.
Because I know the text mentioned that Shiva is revered in different ways across various Hindu traditions.
Yeah, you're totally right.
So how does that work?
So, for example, in Shaivism, Shiva's considered the supreme deity,
Okay.
like the ultimate reality.
Got it.
Everything like emanates from him.
Interesting.
But in Shaktism, which focuses on the divine feminine,
Mm.
he's seen as like the equal counterpart to the goddess Devi.
Okay.
They represent like the fundamental duality of existence,
Right.
constantly like interacting and creating the universe together.
And so then there's the Smarta tradition, right? Where
Yeah.
he's one of 5
Exactly.
primary deities.
One of 5 important deities, right?
So it's like within Hinduism, there's all this room for interpretation,
Yes,
for people to connect with Shiva in a way that like resonates with them.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Hinduism so rich and diverse.
Right.
You know, it's a tradition that encourages personal exploration and
Yeah.
understanding.
So we're like wrapping up our deep dive into the world of Shiva.
Mm.
And I'm left with this image of a god who's like a destroyer, creator, ascetic,
Right.
husband, warrior.
Yes.
Like the list goes on.
It does. So many different facets.
What part of Shiva, like what aspect of him resonates most strongly with you?
That's a good question.
You know, what do you find most compelling?
I think his ability to hold all those contradictions, you know, and
Yeah.
still be this like unifying force.
Right.
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah. And we've only scratched the surface here.
Oh, yeah.
So I encourage you to like keep exploring
Right.
the world of mythology and meaning.
There's so much out there.
There's so much out there.
So many amazing stories.
And see what you discover.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounds great.